Hello lovely friends, here's a sneak peek of this gradient Dutch pour. Welcome to my channel everybody, thank you so much for being here, and a special thanks to all my subscribers and my lovely members Linda and Jill. So today for this Talent Tuesday I'm doing an abstract art piece with totally unexpected results, and I'm doing a Dutch pour and it's a gradient Dutch pour. So today for Talent Tuesday, Kim and I are doing whatever we fancy, and I'll put Kim's link at the end of my video in the description and comments. So I'm starting off with my gradient Dutch pour today by covering a fresh canvas all nicely masked up with some really lovely gold Montana paints, and I'm using 3 different shades of blue to create a background effect. Now you can paint the background or you can spray paint it. You can use lots of different ways to create your gradient background, and I'm using darker and lighter blues all the way around and white in the middle to give it a sense of light coming from behind. So I'm just going to finish off the spray painting, and then I'm going to put a really clear base on top, and that's what you do with a gradient Dutch pour. Once the base is dried, you use a clear liquid. Now I use Liquitex gloss pouring medium for this part of it, and I use it 100%, so that everything you see in my pot is literally Liquitex gloss medium, pouring medium. Okay, so I'm pretty much finished now with the background, and I'm going to leave it to dry and then show you what it looks like once it's dry. So when choosing colours for a background of a gradient Dutch pour, it really depends on the colours you're using on top of it, and this time I almost want them to blend and be a very subtle difference, and then I'm going to add something right at the end which will be a bit of a twist. So it's a natural Dutch pour with something different towards the end, and those that follow me quite often will know how I love to experiment. Okay, so it's nice and dry now, and this is how it's dried. So you can see some nice little speckles on there, giving almost like a nighttime hazy summer's evening effect. So these are the 2 that I tend to use for the gradient Dutch pour base, and today I've only used Liquitex pouring medium, and here it is. Here's what it looks like. I mean, when you normally look at Liquitex pouring medium, you just see it in the container, so I thought I'd just show you. It's very, very fluid, and I've made all of my paints today really fluid to go on top. So just mixing it up. It's been standing for a few hours, and you can just see the fluidity here. So what do you think of the fluidity? Is this something you'd like to try at home? And these are the colours I'm using and the fluidity that I'm using, just to give you an idea of that one particular colour. And I'll show you the colours as I go along. All the details of the colours and the pouring medium will be in the description at the end of the video. So I'm pouring out a nice even base. It's about 1mm in depth, and I'm not covering the entire canvas, but I'm pretty much going around it, and so I know that when I tilt it will fall off, and I can catch some of that and put it back into the container and filter it to use it later in another painting, because this is very expensive stuff. This is probably about £23 in the UK from the range for a litre, just short of a litre of the Liquitex pouring medium. And now it's all dripped off the sides. I am just preparing my white as my first layer. So I'm just gently using a bamboo stick to lay down the white for the base, and I'm just noticing how it's sinking nicely in to the Liquitex pouring medium. It's really gorgeous flow. It's very expensive to use pure pouring medium and paint when you're mixing together, and the actual mix of the paint that I'm using is 20% Liquitex pouring medium and 80% water as my pouring medium, and then I add the pouring medium to 50% paint. So that will be in the detailed description as well. So if you think about it, the clear base is all pouring medium, and the paints on top of it are made up of 20% Liquitex pouring medium, 80% water, and then you mix that pouring medium with 50% paint. For those of you that like the details on these things. So I'm now adding gold, and you can see how I'm layering up these colours. Red is a primary colour, and so is blue, and so primary colours are colours that no other colours can make. Secondary colours like purple and green, they take 2 or more colours to create. I'll add little information as I go along about the colour wheel, because it's so interesting to use it and to play with, and I tend to experiment first, ask questions later. So here's my green going down. Green is another secondary colour, and I've got quite a few secondary colours. I tend to use quite a few secondary colours, or at least layers of secondary colours usually, and today I'm actually using predominantly primary colours with gold. Gold adds a bit of shimmer, and so it doesn't really come out as a colour particularly, although you might see it as a bit of a yellow orangey colour. It doesn't have the same impact as orange or yellow. So I'm layering it down nicely here, and I'm pretty much at the end now of using these colours. I've got navy blue there as well, which is just another type of blue. So it's reds and blues, white, gold, and a bit of green as a secondary colour. So putting some more gold down, and I've got a nice amount of paint. I'm wanting the centre to be thinner than the edges, and I'm really wondering how it's going to blow out, because now I'm going to add some more of the, after just wiping off those drips there, I'm going to add a little bit more of the clear Liquitex pouring medium on the side, and also, as in a traditional Dutch pour, after I've added the last layer of white, because I'd like the white to be the centre of it, I'm going to add the clear base to the outside of the paints shortly. Just giving it a touch up there with the white there. So here we are, just filling in that little hole there, and then adding that to the very outside, can you see, of the paints, of the coloured paints. And this is to help flow, and the reason why we put the pouring medium on is because it's clear, and it gives it a varnishy sort of appearance, and a slightly 3D appearance then when you put the paints like this on top of the gradient underneath. So I'll just say that in a more simple language. So when you're putting this clear base on, even though it looks thick or opaque at the moment, shortly it will become clear when it's dried, but it won't be drying until I've blown it out. So it's really interesting, the stage, because you can't really imagine how it's going to look until it's dried. Okay, so last bits of pouring medium, just to give it a really good opportunity to have a lovely flow, and I think we're pretty much done. Okay, so now I'm going to get a hairdryer. I've got lots of different hairdryers that I use. I'm using one quite a big spout. I'm going down and out in the centre. I'm going down and out. Now I'm blowing in for some of the transparency, and I'm going in from the base. So some of the transparency is going over the colour, and that's why it's keeping its thickness and colour. I could keep it like this, but I decided to add, as you can see, a little bit of red. Sorry, that bit was off the camera. I literally got a palette knife and put some red through it, and I'm going to show you what I did just now in a minute, because I'm going to add some more. I got to this stage and I put my swirls in, and I thought, actually I've got a bit too much white there, and I want to separate the colour, so I'm going to give the butterfly a little body first and some gold tentacles, and then I'm going to add a little bit more after just using my blowtorch or my heat gun to activate any cells, and do a few more swirls And yes, I want to add more colour. So I've got my cocktail stick and I'm using fluorescent pink, and I'm going to be starting to use some really bright colours. I think I fancy a bit of orange here and a bit of red, just to give it a dynamic feel. I'm going for a bit of a rainbow, but not quite, because you can see the green at the top and the blue. I wanted to add some pink and orange because you've got the red in there and you've got a bit of purple, so you really have got all the rainbow colours. Okay, so let's see how I can add a little bit more colour. I think I'm going to put a bit more red down first of all, because on top of the red I'm thinking I'm going to add some orange. So just using my heat gun again, just to make sure any cells that need to come to the surface will come up. And I've got my red down and I'm blowing down and out from where I want the paint to spread. And that's a bit better. It's given a bit more symmetry. So I'm now adding a bit of iridescent blue-green and some midnight blue on top, and then some fluorescent pink and white. And then I'm going to blow from the centre out and the centre out. I'm adding a bit more blue. And then you can see how the colour explodes up there and it goes out into the green, so it looks a bit more even with the effect that I'm trying to go with. But I'm really just going with experimenting here, so I'm really enjoying the colours. Using my cocktail stick again to add a bit of swirl. When you use a cocktail stick and you go through different colours, it is the best feeling. You can just see there, using a bit of white and dragging it through very gently, the navy blue. It adds so much dimension. The cocktail stick is amazing. So here we are with our orange. I'm going from pretty much the centre of the wing outward, and in a way I was thinking this had a bit of a superhero effect because of the colours. What do you think? And I'm using the tip of a paintbrush there. You can use pretty much any tool. When I have workshops, I take about 20 different tools with me. Most of them are things that I have collected from around the house that I have found useful to use. And now this is one of my favourite colours, which I often use as a gold, fluorescent yellow. Beautiful colour. It looks so dynamic against the red. So I hope you've enjoyed this gradient Dutch pour today. I'd love to know your thoughts. I'd love to know what you think about these colours together, and in a moment I'm going to show you the dried result where the background will stop being transparent and you'll be able to see the close-up. So here it is. Here it is, just drying and all finished, and with all the orange added. And here's the end result. So thank you so much for joining me for the ride today. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and let's go and see what Kim has created from Kim's Art Alchemy. I will be putting her link in my description and comments below. And thank you so much for joining us again for Talents Tuesday. Keep shining. Don't forget your art is a piece of you, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye.